Okay, another comment from one of my YouTubers. This is the NT wife, and she states, I just want to know my husband is trying. If he fails, that's okay. That's a great comment. And to the other NT wives that may be watching this video, sometimes it would be very appropriate and even healthy for the marriage if you would reward effort. Reward effort, regardless of the end result. And to the ASD spouses out there, you have to put forth some effort, right? If you fail, fine. That's not a mistake. That's just a learning process. So, great comment. Thank you. NTs, reward effort every once in a while. Another question. Are the traits of ASD calling your wife vile names, like a schoolyard bully? I would say that what's going on there is the result of high anxiety. So when he's calling you names and being bullyish, just know that his brain has flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. He's in fight or flight mode. He's feeling intimidated and fearful. And his calling you names and being bullyish is a defense mechanism against anxiety. It's a way, a very dysfunctional way, to discharge pent-up energy, which is anxiety. So in those moments where he's being basically emotionally abusive, you need to let him know that I'm not going to tolerate being on the receiving end of emotional abuse. I'll be over there at the other end of the house, and when you calm down, we can have a discussion or talk about what's going on. And you need to let him know ahead of time that whenever you start calling me names, I'm going to leave. Question. Do all individuals with autism have alexithymia? It has been my experience that all people with autism have some degree of alexithymia, some worse than others, but not everybody with alexithymia has autism. There's a lot of people that are alexithymic that have other disorders other than ASD level 1. But even if the individual is alexithymic, that doesn't mean they're doomed. There's this neuroplasticity. In other words, your brain can learn new things. That includes developing an emotional vocabulary, developing some emotional literacy, understanding, or at least becoming better at understanding your emotions and the emotions of others. So there is some hope that those who are alexithymic can develop some emotional reciprocity and so on. Okay, a question from one of my YouTubers. How can you get your ASD partner to be more emotional or sentimental? That's like an ASD spouse asking me, how can I get my neurotypical wife to be less emotional and more logical? It's a brain wiring thing. If he has ASD level 1, he's going to have this little thing called alexithymia, which is emotions blindness. And so that means he's not going to be so emotional. He's going to be more logical. He's not going to be high in social and emotional intelligence, but he'll be high in logical intelligence. So the answer to the question is, how can you get your ASD partner to be more emotional or sentimental? That's like asking me, how can I get my ASD spouse to not have autism? Okay, question from Jenny. How do you suggest someone may have Asperger's? I would first of all start with the strengths. In other words, you could say, well, there's this condition where people are very high in general IQ, very high in logical intelligence. They're great in thinking in pictures. They're great with systematizing. They're great at being able to focus on details for extended periods of time. And also, sometimes they have sensory sensitivities and emotional dysregulation and problems in relationships. And there's a name for this weird combination of strengths and challenges, and it's called Asperger's. And I don't know, what do you think? So you're not really suggesting that they have Asperger's. You're relaying some of the strengths, some of the challenges, and then let them decide whether they think they have it or not. Okay, we've got a question from John. How should I handle this when my NT wife says that she feels I'm always interrogating her by always asking questions? Well, I wouldn't ask questions. I would simply state where you're confused or whatever you're unclear about. You can use something along the lines of, I'm not really sure about blah, 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 or I'm kind of confused about such and such, or I'm really unclear about what to do with bling bling. You fill in the blank with whatever it is, okay? And then let it be up to her whether she answers the question or not. Now, that's point number one. Point number two is, if you want to ask some questions, keep it to 2 maximum. Don't ask one, then she answers, then you ask a second question based on her answer, then the third question based on that answer. That is interrogating. So 2 questions max, but preferably just state where you're confused and let her choose whether she wants to answer or not. Okay, quick question from one of my YouTubers. Should ASD be rather married to ASD? Is that a recipe for their happiness? I don't know that it's going to be a recipe for their happiness, but it might be a recipe for them being more on the same page with respect to their brain wiring. You have an NT married to an ASD spouse, those two are going to have quite a dichotomy. The NT spouse is going to be very intuitive, high in social and emotional skills, high in social and emotional needs. The ASD spouse, not so much. But the ASD spouse is going to be high in logical intelligence, and he's going to be very task-oriented, but only tasks of a non-social and emotional nature. Now you get 2 people with ASD together, they're going to kind of be on the same page and understand one another's challenges in the areas of mind blindness, emotions blindness, executive function issues, anxiety, sensory sensitivities. So, could that result in a happier marriage? I think it's very possible. Okay, another quick question from one of my YouTubers. Should I tell him he's ASD? Only if you're a diagnostician and you've assessed him and you know he has ASD. If you go in there and tell him he has ASD when you don't know for sure, just know that's going to start a fight. But you can do a little research, come up with the strengths associated with ASD, also come up with a few of the challenges associated with ASD that he also happens to exhibit, some of those same behaviors, some of those traits. Then your message can go like this. Instead of, you have ASD, it can be, well, there's this condition where there's these strengths, and you list those. And there's also these challenges, and you list those. These are traits of ASD that he also exhibits. And you can say, you know, that's interesting that the person would have these challenges but have all of these strengths too. And you just kind of plant a seed. Okay, here's a comment. Please do something on ASD1 male when they reach old age. Well, there's 3 things that I have found. 1, there's no difference in their exhibition of traits in old age. 2, sometimes their exhibition of traits worsen, and that's usually due to decreased mental health and decreased physical health. That has little to do with ASD in and of itself. And then the third thing that often happens is symptoms improve. And that's usually due largely to the fact that the older individual is more humble and more compassionate. They have just kind of mellowed out with age, and they're more interested in keeping the peace than sticking to their guns and being abrasive. Question from one of my YouTubers. Have any suggestions on how to fill my emotional needs? The lack of intimacy is killing me inside. Well, how many people do we have on the planet? You're going to put all your eggs in one basket? And if this one person, I'm assuming you're talking about your ASD husband, doesn't meet your emotional needs, then you're just going to go through life with an empty tank? Pretty sure that there's a lot of people that could help you get some emotional reciprocity, give and take in conversation, moral support, etc. I'm not talking about cheating here either. So maybe put your eggs in multiple baskets rather than one. Okay, another question. So Mark, how do you deal with the assessment of the unfairness? If it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Well, your assessment is exactly just that. It's an assessment. It's an opinion. It's your download. You're making up a story that you believe that the neurodiverse marriage, in this case, is unfair. So if it quacks like a duck, it's not the duck that's being unfair. It's your assessment, your assumption about what the duck is doing that helps you to perceive that the situation is unfair. What's more important to you, being right or keeping the peace? The answer is being right. And so every time you choose being right over keeping the peace, you have officially laid your own trap. What's more important to you? Listening to understand the other person or speaking to be understood? The answer is speaking to be understood. That's more important to you than listening to understand, and when you do that, you have officially laid your own trap again. What's this trap you speak of, Mark? You set up a scenario that results in you feeling frustrated, angry, resentful, and victimized. Quick message to neurodiverse couples. There's no such thing as constructive criticism. Criticism never constructs. It never builds anything. It always tears down. It always conveys disapproval of an idea, a behavior, a feeling, an opinion, or the person, him or herself. So if you're trying to get your spouse to cooperate, your constructive criticism is not working. Not working. Hey guys, this is Mark. Click on the join button underneath any of my videos, then click on members only videos, and then click on join. And for $9.99 a month, you'll have access to members only videos, which are excerpts from previous workshops I've conducted for NT partners, ASD partners, and the neurodiverse couple. New videos will be uploaded weekly.